lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Lipuranenge no wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweko tite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshefa ili mehola mo iho etike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshefa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna emitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Want to know about Namibia's latest business and economic news? Then look no further than The Villager newspaper. The Villager is an e-paper that is published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for free, directly to your phone or computer. To become a subscriber, simply send a WhatsApp message with your number and email address to 081 200 4144. Be sure to save the phone number as a contact. The Villager, wherever you are.
Yen shangwe nesa mkomakile kuli nikai nikone kumizusa hamo chon kumiamhela ma program yao na ya kachenu moluka tona hamo kukala na koni kuisa hola ya pili ya msihali miyami amhela kina maana lisaya la teka nike kumulutelezanga mama zazi aviki kukala la movulo mani hai siku yoriti lavutano inge lutona hamo Anzibi ule masherenge akazu wakaeka ule masherenge baba malizola kalela sirio nenotere kuli malizo kusaba ba masherenge muri telefera kuli kaba mwitukisize kuli kuna ni sherenge yekato veiwa malizo hola minamo chwale kwana kuli nenditezi program yan kuli kone kufita kwa maferelezo kola naivona hala kule naivona hala kusafita kwa maferelezo yani chwale kona hanivoni kulia nikene fela famoya inge baskati msakale mawa yale siva terezi vaka vakenisa kuhupula kuli mwendi nizo palilwa kutaha nzike palilwa kutaha kinayo nizo kwa nisa kutaha kachano ninzi mbuvo hani vapisa kwa lizazila mavani mavani ni kulile kono ni haike batelezi baka ni basalumiri hani bavulela kuli ni kulile ne bavulela kuli mane unalinzula ali utohande hakuna matata alutwa malinzwila minamo vatiri kona kuli kuna nikandelene nivoni hapa sentoli vala kumikandekela lona havoni nilike kulivatafa lubone kapa lukatorifumana kapa lukalifumana kona kulikili kwa ama aluvone kili kwa ama vatami wabani beli bakile vatami wa kwa haye kwa skiliti sa zambezi mwasiri mosa nivona kuli mwenine lisiri mosa 2024 sani inge inge nelisi mosa 2024 sani kona kuli kiva tuvasirezi kiva tuvasirezi vene vaseveza kwa regional council vene vatamirwe mwasirimo inge kisirimo sa 2024 sani kona kulilikandele nilivoni vakuta yetuna lavulalo viki yeferire bakonle kuzusa muzeko wabuliangelino muzeko uzekiswa vatu vasirezi vene vali vavali vaveleki va Zambezi Regional Council kensa kuli muzeko wavona hauna handevu paki hakuna handevu paki vovukona kuziseza pili ona muzeko kona kuli mapampili azwelezi kwa kuta akonle kubonwa ki katengo kamakande kanampa lavune viki eferire speza kuli vo chief regional officer vo Reginando Pulvinda vo regional director va planning monitoring and evaluation vo Biven Walvita ni vo deputy vavona vo Clechus Muvita vo deputy director wa administration vo Abraham Shkoyeni vo chief development planner Daniel Mbala hamocholo ni vo chief accountant Nimrod Lichela neba izo yema makuta yetuna fapila vo deputy judge president vo Johanna Prinsloo kona kudi vatalimani mizeko mikimizeko yesi keka mulao wa Anti-Corruption Act wa silimosa 2003 mi vakuluverwa kuli kuti vaseverisize mashereng atolikana $4 million Namibian mwalinzira za vuliangelino mi mashereng ya kuvihiwa kuli neli mashereng anaswanela kuseveriswa ma constituency ya Kongola mi neva kwa ulezi chahamo chon muzeko wa kuyeza likezo za vovangoki kona kuli muzeko wavona seli kuzwiswa kwa kuta ya katima muliro mi sewisiwa kwa kuta yetu na ya Oshakati mwasili mosesferire mwakweli ya yenda mi asamlaho seizwa kwa kuta yetu na ya Oshakati ni kutisiwa kwanu kwa kuta yetu na ya Mlening kona kuli lwazi vakuli muzeko kuna ni fone vauzisize hape fone vaoferisize hape mwasili mosa 2024 mwakuta ya skiriti sa Zambezi mi muzeko no oferisizwe ki vo magistrate vo Clara Mwirima kona kuli vava kuluvelwa ma muzeko ne vafilwe kapani valumelezwi kuozekela fande mwasili mosa 2024 mi ne valifile mashiring atolikana $50,000 Namibian kuli vakone kuzwa ma stocksin kuozekela fande kona kuli mashiring ya asamlaho amzeko wavona hautozwiswa makuta sevakutsezwa mashiring au ane valifile kuli vakone kuzwela kuozekela fande kona kuli vusilela wavona wavakuluverwa vafilwe mamela vakonle kufilwa mamela yakuli vakona kuviziwa kwa kuta nako ifika paifi hai vakuli muvuso ingofumana vupaki vovuncha kona kuli kili kandelene nilivoni viki ye ingeneli viki efedile ingana nilivoni viki efedile kandele ansa hopola hande kono sento livona hape kachenu kona kuli kona zeo zamuzeko anisa hopola kapaneli mamasole vene vatorovuza kwa mamuzeko ansa swala hande kono kuna nibena vatorovuza kwa ma ona muzeko kuli muzeko zamaela kai sesi eza halakis kamai ona kwa muzeko wo kona kuli kona zo mwikutwezi muzeko vakonle kuferisa yani vavulelanga masiku akuli struck off and struck off the control kakuli hakuna vupaki vovukona kutisa kuli tava ikone kuzwela pili kuli tava vakone kuizeka makuta yetuna kona kuli seri mizuzu ye mashumi amaveli mizuzu ye mashumi amaveli ni emiveli yesalovehile kwa hola yauna shavu lishumingwe mavan hapa nikonle kutwa lukaliki hakipiho kono lukaliki mwendi kipiho nivaya kuli kipiho mavan nikonle kutwa piho emaso ya hulu kwa makozi yeza hezi kwa hae mwatropo ya katima muriro kwa sivaka sasivahala akashek dwela kona kuli tava ye mane mavane ni vezi fya kutoeka ndeka kapa mwendi neini vezi vukiti neini vezi vukiti hani yutwa mise kupala kuli nikaekalera kai mavani kona kuli mavani kuna nimulikana kaya na ngozi kwalikepe kwa maona tavaye namane nene muvuza fazi siri kona kuli satoni kandekera kwa maona kozi yeo yeza hezi kwa svaka sa shek dwela seini komokisa hulu mini wana kuli senisi ela ona fo mwendi kona haniska kona kutoivolia na nifamo yafa kakuli ini palezwi kuli nikatwe kalela kai kona kuli hanizwa famoya mana nese ninzi kwandu kona kuli muhulwa naka yo mungu niye notoni vuza uningole zili ngusa kuli mana utwile abeni batakotola pili olumize mati hainyani maluta linzwilaka pili onwe mezi milu katozwela pili hanyi nilike kuhotola mwendi linzwilaka likakwaula anizivi kulikisika manyi nisha
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Kona kuli nibona kuli mwenseli nzimbuvo linzwila kanza palieze chwani litrofa safela lona lingi anzi uli sesfosa ezikisi kamanyi kona kuli sina hani vulezi likande mi sento utwa ona likande leo kulia kuna ni musali yachezi mwando mi sisi eza hezi kutiki ya inani yena ne bakeni mwali kanyi ni musali yo mungu yana inani yena fandu fo mi likanyi leo seli kutisa ndua mane batu seli kuswalana mwambando swalana famuvili mi asamla ho andwa yeo alutivi kuli kweza hezingi mi baturozo hafela muliro seli kucha kona kuli mama yo yachezi mwando kufana halu muliro no so chilelo neso tukilelo li mi seli kubona kuli azusese fela bana bahaye fa window mi window yeo di window yenena ni ma tusimbi twantolo vizanga kuli kima bagla kona kuli hasa azusize hasa konle kuzusa banana bahaye fa window fo kutuli kile kuhuwa kuli batoto sa mi baba izo mata kuli vatotosa vapalezwi kukona kuvulaya squalo mikavumai seri kutimelela mwandu mo ene kona kuli hani swafamo ya mavani omuhulwana kavani vuzize puzo mwaziva hai vakuli sozi vahala kakuli na senzi vahala kuli ni wamakande senzi vahala kuli ni muvihi wa makande kona kuli vatu ni hava vatakutwa atava kapava vatakutwa vuniti watava vatahanga kuna nikutovuzana kona ulisa vatoni vuzayo na mise nitovulela kuli hani paki hande tava yo kono nina kuna ni ani sevezio na ni utwile kono ndikile utalimatalima kwa makepe hakuna piho yen konle kuvona kwama ona alikandele ole ni utwile mi mungwini yena seri kunivuza kwa manzi vanchwana kulikuweza hezingi wena utile kulikuweza hezingi mi senivulera kuli ni zivi anina handeli seri kulikuweza hezingi fatavaye kono nina ni utwile fela naike ni utwile fela ziseza hezi kono hanisika utwa vutungi vwatava kuli vamakande vavihirengi kona kuli haninzi fo senitofumana piho sanilumela piho kwama ona kozi yeza hezi yeo kona kuli piho vale hasina chwana nika mivalela yonamo ni vale zinina kona kuli piho ivi hakuli musali walilimo ze mashumi amandeni zepeli utimezi asamulaho amulilo haukala kutuka mwamusio wa haye kwasi vaka sashek dwela sisumane ha mwatropo yakatima mulilo lihola zaka kusasani za la muvulo mi yantimezi ukonle kuzivahala vavihile mavizo ahaye mamayo kono nahani na kwa viza famo yafa kona kulikuyaka piho ye konle kuvihiwa kapa ye konle kuyaka piho ye vihilwe ki mapokola kuti mulilo nokalile kucha fahala vusihu na musalio hana alovezi ni vana vahaye vanana vavaveli mwamusio wahaye mi kutukonle kutusa vanana kakuvazuseza fa window yene nani mabagla mi ukonle kuvazusa mwakozi mi kunasweli kunolika kuhuwa kukupa tuso kono kavumai haska kona kumana tuso mi seli kutimela ona mamusio ono sweli kunocha kona kulilipatiso zeizo yezwa fasi vaka se kuspeza kuli musio wa musalio kimusio omungwi mwandu mokunani misio emiveli mikindu yana kopanela ni omungwi musali mikutuva izofu manaka pupe ka 5 lita kene kana ni munko wa petulu kaka fumanwi vukaufi ni makenelo amusio wa musali ya timezi mi mapokola va lumela kuli ona sivaka funa vafumani kapupe kao kona funa ukalezi kuchela mulilo kona kuli mapokola vakonle kungamu twali mumwi ye vakuluvela kuli vavatako muvuzali puzo mi sivaka fo kuyeza hezi ona kozi ye vakonle kustivela kensa kuli vasalitezi vatu vatoyeza lipatiso vavayozwa kapa vazwa kwanu kwa mlening kona kuli valuvasilwa haye enamsalio vakonle kuziviswa zalifu la haye kona kuli kona tavayo kona kuli vatu vasori kunofitsama ikuto avona kwa mapilaelo ya likezo zeswana engeze kikezo yestuye kikezo yestuhu ahulu luli yaye zizekezo ye ukafumana zana avata kakuli hoko ni kunga petulu ni kuchisamulilo na avata kuvulaya chorefa kili toho nolofela kuli vanana mama yanu konde kuli kakatata kuzusa vanana yanani kandekela mavanani kandekela kuli hana sweli kulika kuzwisa vanana vahai kuti mana ovulezima nzwe akuli nanga vana vangu vahale kwa teni kuli nevile vana vaka vapile vona hai vakuli nanashwa vana vaka vona vapile yeni chwale kita vayeni tunkila hulu maikuto kita vaye vukiti nevile mina hai vakuli muyutule mavani tavaye nena sepo yakuli kunani mo muikutwezi kuli kunani koi zo swala ona tavaye kwa pilo ya mina kikezo yestu hu ahulu hulu luli jole halusazi vakuli loka pila chwani hai bakuli seluike zali kezo zesona ingezelu na venga iyo mungwi wakona kuyeza kezo yechwana ni masisi hana kivu nyemi bamfuta mangivo bobukona kutisa kuli mutu akone kuyeza kezo yechwana kivu nyemi bamfuta mangi chwale yeo kitaba yini komo kisize ahulu haya bakuli ne muska yoto amavani muyutwe kuna nina ni komo kile mavani hani yotwa onatava ye nziani komo kile kuna nilitava zengu zeni utwile kwa maona kozi yezenske na avurela pamoja faka kuli hani zutwa ni melile silami ani zoto amavani ni melile silami insingi lishea chwale selupila manako yenzi chwani kanti selinako ifi yeselupila kuyona yeo vatuse bakona kuyeza likezo zeswana inge chwana kapa mutu sakona kuyeza likezo zeswana inge chwana kimizuzu ya mashumi amalalo ni SDGs love hile kwa hola yao na avulishumi haiba kuli mukoma kile nimi na nina nikoma kile yeni kiri tava za kwangu ezezeo litava za kwa katima mulilo chwale pili walumiza mate asamula hakuteleza manzwi atunka maikutoa lumiza mate hanyani miasamula ho katozwela pili lo katotali malitava zengi ensha musike mwaya kwa uli.
Want to know about Namibia's latest business and economic news? Then look no further than the Villager newspaper. The Villager is an e-paper that is published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for free, directly to your phone or computer. To become a subscriber, simply send a WhatsApp message with your number and email address to 081 200 4144. Be sure to save the phone number as a contact. The Villager, wherever you are.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
lipuranenge no wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukara ya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna emitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi kono kondado inawa noneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshe fa omarudi dayo loka opone ujendi fenawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ninge pata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora tatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Enshangwe lwazwe la pili kona kuli seri mizuzu ye mashumi ya malalu nyelo vangwe na ike ma mizuzu ye sirezi ka pangari kwa ka imba kakave ka vapalire kona kuli luhamo luhamo shangwe kamso kizazi la pomolo kuvava nani hani mena silami chwana ki timise kwa silami kwa piri wenga luskafta kwa pomolo ya kamso kacheno hantoke na marisipi za famoyanze nitorovu za wapo za kuli wena wala tambumbi sinevo ya kuli nana ala tambumbi nana ala tambumbi hani navutata ni mbumbi mbumbi na ilata ni pepirwena kwa mbumbi kwa nakuli hakuna sisi kwa na kusanilatsa mbumbi na kwa ya mbumbi kwa nakuli kamso ki pumulo na halu zivakuli kamso ki lizazi lelu taveranga lindo alume ni lindo akati zanaha zenezi lwane zi naha tukuluho ya naha ya luna ya Namibia kambe sivona kambe hamopili manaha ya lukuluhile kachenule kapa kambe mwendina hamina neelie hile kufumana tukuluho kona kuli mwikolana haya lukuluhile kensavatu vene vashwezi tukuluho ya naha ye kiona yani emo pelanga mapina ya naha kuli their blood waters our freedom. Mini veni sepa kuli mwazi wako opela pina ya naha mwana mwazi wako opela pina ya naha kachenu kwa vatelezi vaka inge musika mbola kale nina mutoka lafela kuopela pina ya naha luvone kapa mwaziva ne vata kutovona kapa mwaziva pina ya naha heva hamwezivi mkatoni komo kisahulo ne mkatoni komo kisahulo hulu luli chale ni veni sepa ya kuli kafela na lwaziva pina ya naha Namibia let down the brave we don't fight we have won. Lokato pela kamso lizazela kamso kona ledi swanela kuli luto pela pina ya naha kilizazi leo halo zivi fakapa kukava ni mali ya kwa skiriti salo na saa zambezi kapa chwani fa halo zivi kono kuvani beba la terezi ona lizazila kamsole kuna ni vatu vene vaile kwa naha ya South Africa mi ne vayonga auzifa apa halukona kuvula kulikili tupu mwendo luvela tunavayonga mivili kakuli ma remains masilozi king kimivili kona kuli kuna ni sikwata savatu sene sile ndivyo likuwa ambuyo valikolo la tuto kukona kuyolukisa litukiso za kukutisa ona mivili ya lindu alume za luna kwanu kwanaha ya luna ya Namibia kuli vakone kutovulukwa kwanu kwanaha ya luna kona kuli kuna ni vana vavamwe vavaizo kutiswa kwanaha Namibia vavakonle kuvona vonda tavona inge vavulukwa asamulaho adilimo ze mashumi aketali zoni zepeli kuzwelila fone vashwezi kona kuli kivo Simon Petrus Nilenge vana vavona vavalalo vavasizani vavavihiwa kuli kivona fela vavalalo vavapila malu vasi lwavona mi kivona fela vavalalo vava elukali vavaenzi vukaufi ma luvasi lwavona vakonle kuvona wanda tavona havayokotela havo mana Namibia asamulaho alilimo ze mashumi aketali zoho nizepeli kuzwelila fone vatimelezi mwana haya South Africa mi vakonle kuvavona enge vavulukwa kwa sivaka kwa kuvulukwa lindu alume ni lindu akati sesi vahala ka heroes eka mavani kona kuli vomusala vona hamocho ni veva pepo ni vona litavazendekize imba izwezipili lwekelize mikwaye ng'wi yencha kukona kunolofaza kwa nkufisa hamochwalo ni mata amsikavona kale kala mwitukiselize kuvona musevelezo wa imba ye mufumane lisevelezo zezwe zipilize kakulifafela mashilingi alikana 36 Namibian dollars kakweli kapa kamikwaye kutesifa fasi ye tatama 5% machipisa hamungo lisalikwelize talu 10% machipisa hamungo lisalikwelize silela 25% machipisa hamungo lisalikwelize lishumipeli muketeli kwelizo muvata kuli mukone kukala kuikola zende zeo imba imiswalezi fama chipisa imba tokubukanili fasi kaufela mwipe kwa lisevelezo za imba kachenu kuli mukone kuikola zende kaufela.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Kona kulilwazela pili haniskale mha kulikinako ya kapanga likoka imba nensweli kumikandekela likande le la vanga vaizokuta kwa muvu insi kwa muvu kana vaizokuta kwa na haya vone aspepo kona kuli na hanen vulela kuli vomsala vona hamocholo ni vava pepo ni vona vatimezi kale me vatimezi muvili wavona ingoske kutswa kale kwa na Namibia kona kuli kusiezi fela vana vavona vavalalo vavasali vavakonle kukona kuyovona vondo tavona hava yokutela havo kona kuli nevatimezi silimosa 1974 mwa exile miili limozelo vapeli asamulaho ali membala zeng'wi za luvasi lwavona hava fone vavavonezi kona kuli nevatimezi lilimo ze lovapeli kuzwa fone vavavonezi valuvasi lwavona Ensha.
Ensha.
Ni muzuhire chwani.
Mzuri chani.
Muzuhire hande. Ni.
Se bashimika ofera. Amakozo na hayalna. Ale. Beni babitereza. Kimwana ama kina Angola kapaki Zambia.
Kwa Angola, mavani kwa Luanda.
Vazoe.
Ebo sazi vika pava otra pofa kapane bavu hafera.
Kona bunde kisi supasa kulia radio sei fama emo abahami. Ni makande ayona ubona hala kuli asisi musamubiri kona mbona kuli vatu se bafuma na kabelo kuli siwa ya iwa. Kale radio haite na bona kuli abisiza hulu babangata. Njoe letumere intoyende maso ni kutabisa habo barwana ko rusazi peto se bari kanti Namibia uri kuna ni machazi ba jare bizola mina kere seri inzi ko na burisipo
kwa Luanda ko kwa na boni sibungu
ko
ni
letumere wa Teresa
moya wami na wami shwela muna ni
alwo nilike kuipata ina kwa moya
ni selina kwa moya kono na esi wafela fa
wafela osu ya September ya September usakunkumu nalikota fali mango nisanya ndafa nawe sepile guruka achali mango koma zisaya sawa
usakunkumuna
zisanya utahefera hata baesi ye bona uli trochincha voice amina tabaye trochincha linjura amina ni rulitere yeni ndio chole mama na segini tala bawe ke bamero kisira migini
mira tabayeri zeri mavani tabayeni uture mavani inga hantoka kala famoya
never na nitu leo kwa hanu pa position ekeo bana hani turera fana na kulira wana komori muna asitafa kulira bana milita badeza kuli hako na kuuta pili kuliwikale kutoa miyoko sina kulota pili ni pe mama yemo aka kezo kamba kina kamba nikai iko namba na kuli kinitiruli sisi musamubili nikusavisa hai eza hezi kumutu yomu mifera hoi pia maskatro sana keni kusona ndo ena alwanire hakintu ebu nolo kono pili puzo ya pili kia kuli boma na pili yo ena alwana niye na ena na kuti ne baloba lando ili
never rentingando ili
okay chwele yena na fumana ile line kulisi ho hena huwa mtu yo na alike nikapa
nasio
yes
no tula kuli gena enze mastokse
mane no to basente sefera no to kuli sente serikazeo kaze zeze mama na sa mulawa no mi tastet vai sanga tava kongole ne na mwana na fera na nigano fo ana kuisata wewe mwanto kuisa kuli ndo venere kuzeka kikula kule za kuzeka zeze mukana kushina na nako likaza kuzeka ziteni no size zipona hezikala yogi kusente sana watu mama usko sinyoza nako likazi pire kare kimu buzana ulumwele kwa sema chivulaela mutio kisikama ipeto kona puzo fera basi wa ndamu bago tu yo batamuye mei boti amuzo hasema ulumwele mutio kisikama kona puzo kwa mapeto rupeyi batakuisa kile kulo ne hai kile kuli kambe mutu kopani heva kinyazi sapa heva kopani kinyazi akikalo hori kone kyo tani mufupulo hupole mavasa mutu yopi never in high zone hebo kwa nile hande da hupole kalo yo mwainzuri kile excellence ni Felix coming banana vani ka fera mbodi mioya yabona kina yangire mioya yabona And the key na kile ndio wazi bahande nikaza na bapalire. Ni na haska ba masi how to kumutio sahu waking. Kamba ko duhan mas nyo kirula.
Mana na sio fando.
Hafe da to za kalo ni kumata.
Kuna hao mwende hafe za kweza kalo yona no hire.
Kono na ska ya hu kwahule.
Nano hire.
Woni tusa kuya kwa na ska ya kwahule ni kwa na bata kubwa. Kuna nisiba kafe na yemi kuti usaku bone ngana yako muchiba ke sunu china. Kona kalo ne matoya hai na ile tra ko patafali neko. Tabe tro mucha. Kia kuli hato utoko mulio choke no sola mutu yani. Kona fato kuterangana kuli kambe hanska za kalo yani. Ritabaza boma narisa halusa za orugweza haska mimi.
Kistango.
Kimba ngwero alifasi boma narisa. Para ni ba alifasi wetu fa luri neneko. Kimba ngwero alifasi kuli. Koni yo bani muhupulo wakiofeza moya. Woni sazivi mwene otezi kuye na moya. Okona ni tumbafera kuli nani ka feza moya. Kali tabafera za kuzibu nolo. Kulwana ni mtu anafaa maana isepetu wa maalelela mtu kutikachio na feza moya wa hai. Mina kumbala vene vaile kwangu hapa. Kone vene masana ne bangasa fa lubata kulukulana. Halu kulula kwa mtu watakubulaya vada lubata kulukulana hayo na heva kima hani. Lubata kulukulana. Nuna hapo sasa. Zero hapo sana.
Hello. Ensha.
Mchwani bakoli.
Lulu handa mchwani.
Sababu ni zao tu lakini tuli mwakola.
Kacheno se muri utwa. Mama nene mevolera ne mohana ule mane hakuna linze hande.
Nipisa kwa maana si. Nesa utwali mavani.
Kacheno se utwa.
Bachoko ne bakutereza kama otokuli voice chize.
Kono kina yo hani lofi balika nene brace kuli kulofa hani lofi.
Wosu kuone bagabo ya kuli nzwe kuti. Nozo ira mwile taniko.
Nozo ile.
Desha.
Nile makao bani kuba kumina. Kwanga mbole muspedi Kasi na bo pake bo mo tire. Bobo supako likimiti yo yana loba nela maro mwili mkiendelekeze kibosi.
Hakuna kono supo sa surpresa. Hani vyangu supo sa surpresa. Kwa kazi kuitania na mama yo ya waneta. Papa kale kezo haska hala. Inge hakuto sumata kulika chekule. Ndio ntika ni mama alisa. Kuta haruto titika pa. Haruto titika ndio mama alisa. Haruto titika ni mimi muona. Kutofu mane hakuli. Kutofu mane hakezo yo kuli. Yo mshima ni achira mwandu. Already yo igasu kwa hakuna kwa nako ezakaulo ye kivonje njema ba. Kinga kwa maneno na timu moja ni mama kapali. Kachero mtu yo kwa mane hakezo soneke.
Puzo ya kuli bako bada balwanile vile wabu wanakapachana.
Ne balwanile. Ne baswalani ni famu virimani.
Okay.
Kwa gasta mendeno tule babani.
Okay. Bakoli nikubile ni mikili sindikateni. Niko nakuwa ma indicators askola kwa mwendika ulo yo izela kuyema. Nahera kuli kimiti neba kira fita bako shara na maikuto nene kutana honi ziri kolako ba niti kutazeo ikolako kutana na kalona yo
Neheko na forma na nebalwa mirena kwa mai
ko ani zo hapa nele musti hali kabaneri manzi bwani
ona na pupeka ka nerika inka petro Kile kanunga petro.
Ngafa everita ka okene kanunga petro.
Ngapa ni zivi na kwa mstari na yo. Petro kise fano. Well, the which as well were higher than I is there. Bakola kusikisela mwa bedroom ya mtu yo kubya muliro. Kuna oke kazi za raisi ya. Bakuli nae vana niko kuipuma kulifanya swale petro ni kuchakolo. Petro ya tulela. Mi petro ya la telela kwa izvile. Tuana zimu chazuwa wa hae kuli nyeri chazuwa luli. Ina kwa za hendo petro kanzi raisi wa kuli. Hala kuli kakontela petro da kumanele pa munyako.
Manele pa munyako.
Wa bedroom ya na chizimanda. Kala ni mwa ku kitaba etantao ku kuli. Na kale ko stela promo hali. Kona ko kia kwa munyako. Kapa na excellence through window.
Kona for sa uzivi ka fela lo na fo. Kona for sa zivi ku muliro no kale ku chakai. Insinguli muliro no kale ku chakai ka kuli mapokola va kulovela kuli. Mwendi no kale ku chona fo ne bafumanika pope. Jare halu twisikuli petu liona isela chwani. Kapope kumana watu kona kaskacha. Jare kumana wali mwendi kapope kafumani fatu kufane kukalezi muliro. Jare kona folsa twisifa kuli muliro kalezi ku uchile chwani. Petu luizo fita chwani mahali.
Abiska utaka de misali yo zaka.
Kama fela mbona bazo kwa hai.
Ne mwako hai kwa kwa mchairu. Kwa vile kabisa.
Mane kuna nyana anisevela fela kutike muluti kwa mpalila.
Shit.
Yo nyanji.
Yachi size muliro. Nyandi hanska otaka kuluzwa kai.
Kono gini pi.
Ita baya maswa hulu.
Chazi na kono ona yo wero segundo obrera. I think my man was service era window. Then ha kai za ku service safari haulo. Uchakuzi mengi sinigulila tera mahali.
Jana nane nevoza kuli kimunyemi bamushoba manyi bopiliwo.
Kisata mine.
Mina mtu wonyamba aba mwabanyemile ukweza wishi kukulipo. Kwana ba mwabanyemile aba mbatu abanyemile butyo mu bya mwabanyemile tero. Wona bakaza wishi bad. Kona mtu yanyemile kafe okuta kunyemba sekusone nge mtu kutakana. Ni mtu yatakana.
Bakulona.
Kiuma ikeze waeza aliyekolo.
Mane maswe luli.
Muri mutu sirike bakutoaze na bana mwezi watu bataba yeo. Kasamo amizu aso izekezo yeo kutoka mutiare tinyire kwa kutoka mutiare ile. Kasamo la amizu wakao ikupla kuli kama nkaza.
Ni ezekenzo yani.
Ni.
Muri mutu size kubona pera hapo ulikireti karo ya kutusaba na bahaye.
Tabe amabani.
Efio.
Ya restoration. Ya kwenda restore.
Ya tapi.
Bunga toma nito kusi kamu kana. Akona ko ba restore. Achwe kali kota. Machwani. Di follow za mwana heni. Hapo mchwani restore. Zero sa koni kwa restore. Kina minerals. Na minerals na gold, rescue, mu petrol, kana kaza zaze yetu wazani. Zazo vazi ferezi pende. Tuwele litapi, ndi follow ni likopa. Hamu wala tubichutami na oge mole maka hulu miki, ito wana la kukena hulu. Wana kusia hivi for 10 years. Nikasamu wa 10 years. Hawa kujumsa pombulima nivisi ya liko tazadi. Iko naku kutate, kutamshitu ya lepa kwa hivi. Himu anawali tatinizo wame. Mwarondo, ne kuna ni kamitonga fish farming, something like that. Whenever that breed mama singaling. Mwana ba nga swama ya litapi mwana ba eza papa kama figures wate papa ba produce papa figures ke project yone tumira holo 5 years back tera nizivi ninawa ambola nila rondo kabina mkavu za na reporter na rondo kuli maemo asila kaseo aichwan hakuli taba kupanga sila kasale nerikuli masinga limzani hapa goma teni akona kuzisa mwale nikuweza risto mwali bukazalo namo kulitapize matrapia za kase beba chalo zuguri project yani palile kapaisari teni awuse sotwala Kama magazi kakatata mumbate news kama marondo kama nisila kasola seo. Teza kasola marondo.
Kuti division naso na kimanyi?
Something like michonga. Batungu ya mmoja haba rondo. Kuri kisipa kama ni sasa kipena marondo. Sere spangula kuri zikono za produce ma fingerlings.
Jere ma fingerlings foki kitu tapi twanto twinyani.
Eni. Len. Kwa asila kasana seo, kwa nemo zelo mtu na wala sasa kasana seo. Kwa kuli tatunya nitaka nge do pangula ko wala kutoka nge do ko. Nge ba marta boje ngema.
Alo zefa ba matrika peke network yavona.
Ni kwa tapatunya nitaka kutoka ko nge ba feed mali ndo kazalo namo. Nchara zikuli sibakasani. Maemu ateni fa chwani.
Aha, nikavuza bavi balona bafumani hamarundo.
Ndio bavuze.
Aha,
kakuli. Letapi ki ikola kuvaji sani vule sola ngeli kwata. Tokasa kwenda kwa tesa watu. Baada mulila kulitesa haba kulikam troda watu kulitesa mbezi kuseta tatazawana. What do we do? Kitabe akulitesa na kweva tukasa baba ya mwa kitesa pinaba for 5 years. Kuna kuyamba. Me after 5 years, kapana after 2 years. Tapi no then I see your mama in Mozambique, kwa kutatu mwateni. Kile kutoka sababu nakocha hapo mvuso, kapaba kama eso. Like it's not easy. Kono kusona kwa na hawa. Kwa kweli is for the benefit of the community. But tuka ule kulivete ni akulifata pazi yemiswe for 5 years, kapa for 4 years. Bakanga ngeke kulimwendi ba peto basaba bataka pa peto batoko batoko bashwe. Kono at the end of the year after 2 years. Kiwala pela ka batavira hapo no ndakocha hata pasa zenga tabana mali noka. Kachori tazo zakuliza.
Kachana mwitani zakuliza. Kono isi mana ba masole valor medicines ba masole. Opita edi.
Okay.
Agosli ngosa.
Okay.
Konesi vasnengela vavulezi kuli kuti yota vaya kuli hakuna hande litapi kuti hakiani tibona hava ilumeri. Kuti litapi zitenika kuli. Kuna nana vavulela kuli kwa shuku months beko kwa vasole kunoswala matapi amatuna insingirishea.
Esi matapi yao ati ora fama tapi ora baswa bana kona kama kuli munda wana ukalakala. Ana kuli matapi yao hazu vasho masbeki for matapi yao. Ayo zula muni wasa ijavulozi kwa. Kwa kwa matapi yao. Kili bavulo epulu akuli. Pidi mundo ska mataka last year mwa Oktoba, matapi wana litenga pajwani. Baka watu matapi wana siyo. Sema iwan.
Kwana uli matapi kakuli banane bavulela uli kuti bana nikayambelo kakabosula kibazambia chole nane ni bavulela kuli kono lano utire kuli kwa Mungu kuna nilitapi mwenyana akahana yensi kwa Mungu izota nilitapi universe kuli kuna nilitapi ko tare hani zibi wana hava lumeri kuli kuti hakuna nilitapi Nala le bavulela kuli batu basusu bayambi basusu welizo kusia kuyamba inge kayambelo kakavusula kavasiri kunoyamba kafeza litapi kakuli hava kapihelela hakuna kuvanili tapi lili mozeke talizoze taha.
I think most of your fast for fish conservation. Kama usia sasa fish conservation nakanga seriousness never spend kwa for. Kwani for vile serious kudimane sana kwa kwanu. Di for zene zanto zene saziba na balona. Di pizi litou linali se flow mandameno. Twende likweli ona kaolo na never spend kwa for. Kama neka kotape kwa
litapi.
Kwa litapi. Ngani kaolo yo nekaba masande. Mangalisa.
Cha.
Sepako de ngindisa na kubeteza mani kwenye kamuso.
Hapa muyakai.
Ni kwa kota.
Muya kwa kota.
Ni ofaricho da kutiverwa.
Mara isi kapakiri choma ngizo.
Sima vope ni makiri ni na saladi. Yeah.
Okay. Ni na yesi nikatongolisa sisa ni nani ndofa kwa na malobe. Saka ni loberanga zona kwa induka afisa kwa niholela zona vazi lobera kwa basi. Niti ngato. Ni na yesi mamone lomere lichozaka. Vope ntuchiri ni masara dintocha.
Wana hamane sono so mbo famba ba.
Musari ku kauli na vata mvuza musari ku changi kauli no ture kuli musari ku no mungu shamina. Na koya ka ofelani uture kuli basari ku no mu mata vatu va hapa na pala ku vuza uri kante musari ku changi munife kwa teni.
Ni ranchi alita pizika hove.
Chalefo muni lumela chalita pila ne lumule ka alo ka mbola kante hamka zoka kuta muni phone ngere.
Okay, ni kanuswa but kuna ngule mwenye na kata yata kwa numba mdeti manyana. Mwene mwa next week ngadivulewa.
Kante bona no batabe baba kona ko nitela nditape.
But then for ngata yo msako lumela ka kola box. Ndaba ka wani andikana.
Ka collab kuna ni ka collab box kwa hai. Vate hani na collab box Hey.
Tukwa na kwa wani ndi collab box gani?
Kona kuleka.
Now like kama ice blocks then kuna na ice blocks then is top itange fresh.
Okay. Neka ka kula box kapa vakayonga kuna neka kula box kwa na maluvi kwani. Ni aloka ambo ala kante.
Okay.
Shangwe. Ensha.
Shangwe.
Bye bye.
I'm drop it.
Okay. Ni bopi tamako na kuliza chwale. Your time to shine is now. Nakoya mina yakuliza kie. Seli mizuzu ye lishumingwi yeselove hile kwa hola yauna ya voveri hola ya lishumiperi. Kutika chano linzwila kala utohala kuli ni mukuli. Hai baka chano nani kutwa kuli ni nzimbuho. Kili nzwi fela kubana hao limeendili nzwi. Lona rizika folirila kale. Anizivi. Kwa mana kachano ni nzimbuvo muvili wikutwa mbuvo kuvapisa mone ni kutwela mavane ni kulile kamba kiyomu mkapa na izo inafera kwando bana izo itulera kwando kwa nchifana kai kutwela mbuvo kona na kai kutachwale na nilivesta ba yakuli nilofila hulu nilofila hulu kona kuli hanilati hanisa lata kulofafa hanisa lata kuchona amkano utwa kuli nilofile kili ka zevu tokwa hulu luli. Zeka tisakuli ni kone kunanuha. Akusichwalo ni teni famo yafa. Nilo hamo famo yafa. Akuna konia. Mi mami zozo ya mi lalo lukave lupotezi misika. Mi asam laho. Nikatozo la pili nilikandelene ni mikandekela kwa ma. Vaba volokirwe mavani vaba konle kuvolokwa fapila abana babona vasaliva valalo asamlaho alilimo ze mashumi aketalizoho nilimo ze peli zose fitile kuzwa fone bashwezi kona kuliki 52 years mili kandele kili kande kwa ma mivili yene izozwiswa kwa na ya South Africa kuyokutiswa kwanu kwa mlenengi kutovulukwa kwa asivaka ko kuvulukiwa ma lindwa lume ni lindwa kati mini mikandekezi kuli vamos falar ona banava amo chalo no vapepani vona bafelize kutimela me kuvihiwa kuli kusiezi fera ona bana babona basali bavalaluva me neva izotimela mwasili mosa 1974 kwa exile me kuti nerililimo zelo vapeli kuzwerera fone vavavonezi valovasi lwavona kona kuli lugatozo la pili nilikande asamlaho misika musike mwaya kwa ule lutona hamoho kachana kilavu veri ona chwana fela peto vikiza maile mavane nto mikandekela kwa ma monska pomula mafela vika felile nentavela kupumula kono kavu mai haniska kona kupumula ni pumaninge nipate hirerika zengwi chwalo me ninanise pa kuli mwendi mafelo aviki motoka kona kupumula kusenami pateho yeka kona kumfumana yeka tsakuliaska apumula kakuli nani pumulanga fela la sabata chele la sabata nse pumula unisiri kuno yezalika peto viki kaofele etahani kautafela mkatalo osa kona hadi kakuli nani kalanga kuseveza la sunda niteni mali sipimo mane haisiku yoliti lavutano mini pumulanga fela la sabata chele hani pumana kuli nipate hile mimi pate ho la sabata peto likazanya mbwalakana things fall apart likazanya mbwalakana kilo nalinzwela ninge nikona kuli lukatozwela pili.
Did you know that road safety is a shared responsibility? Become a good fellow driver by keeping your tires properly maintained, controlling your speed, and always driving sober. Let us unite to reach 0 deaths and serious injuries, because together we can. This message was brought to you by the National Road Safety Council.
Good fellow driver, good fellow walker, good fellow driver, good fellow passenger.
Lipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo toto ingida ashike kapeno nweko dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukara ya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi kono kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Want to know about Namibia's latest business and economic news? Then look no further than The Villager newspaper. The Villager is an e-paper that is published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for free, directly to your phone or computer. To become a subscriber, simply send a WhatsApp message with your number and email address to 081 200 4144. Be sure to save the phone number as a contact. The Villager, wherever you are.
Hapa ni batere kuli baraka cheno. Tin 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 ton 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 tutoro ton 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 tu 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 tutoro tu 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 Fapei luvana zengata Fapei luvana shangwe makazo Yalitohonolo muholelo mukatumbi shangwe Fapei kuvuka nyalivyana Yalitohonolo muholelo mukatumbi shangwe Fapei kuvukanya livyana yavo mai muholelo mukatumbi shangwe pei feleleza mamungomo sangano utwe kachano kuna ni baba hoze manene senelivezi bati kona kuholanga mafelo aviki mafelo akweli sene kupulanga fela pei yaka ya mafelelezo akweli amochalo ni pei ya bakali 20 vena kali 20 kona kuli ensha lohamo luzo la pili nilikande le nensweli kuno kandeka ngeloska swala kale vo Hendrix ni sepsize kuva swala ni sepsize kuva swala kona kulinswanela kuva swala pero omunswalile hanyani kona kuli kuzala pili nilikande la luna kuzala pili nilikande la luna kona kuli vana vavaizotimela silimosa 1974 kwa exile mifutineli lilimo zelo vapeli kuzwelela fone vavavoni valu vasilwa vona kona kuli stupu savona vangola foni sazivi kuli kimuvili kapaki stupu kona foni saswali handefo kimuvili kapaki stupu kona lukali mwendi lukali ki stupu savona kona uli stupu savona sizozwisiwa kwana South Africa hamocho ndili tupu za vavangwi vavazivahala kuva lindwalume vavazivahala kuva lindwalume mi kona kuli litupu zavona zizongiwa viki yefelile kona kuli stupu savona sizotaha ni stupu savavangwi vo Festus nehale viki yefelile mi vuveli vavona ne vavulukilwe mavani kwasi vakasa heroes eka kokuvulukiwanga ma lindwalume ni lindwakati kona kuli kuyokutiswa kwa mivili yavona kichwalo kikuyokutiswa kapa kuyokutiswa luvulele kuli kuyokutiswa kwa mivili yavona silozifo kumwe kuyokutiswa kwa mivili yavona ki mulelo okalile mulelo oswanela kuyokutisa mivili kapali tupu za vatu vavatolikana va mashumi alo vapeli ni vavane 84 mili tupu kili tupu zeveilwe kwasi vaka sezivahalaka eziko museum sesifumaneha mwanaha ya South Africa kona uliana izofitisa manzwi kwali neko la luvasi lwavo nilenge wizovulela kuli vaimezwi vaimezwi ki maekuto avaekutwa kaona mi kuya kamanzwi avo sivwavo ivaize kuli mazazi alutolokela kulikela kufita lilimoze mashumi aketali sohoni zepeli 52 kuzwelela fone vatimelezi voonilenge mwasi limosa 1974 kono valuvasi mwami hupolo yavona kuvona halenge kulikinako yetelele ahulululi mivaize kuli la mafelelezo hava vavona kapa hava vonwa kivaluvasi lwavona neli mwasi limosa 1966 mi mwasi limosa 1974 sevato utwa lingusala kuli ne batimezi kona kuli posibu abo ibaize kuli kuli lyapalo ze batinire lyapalo za kulira ze batinire lyapalo ze nanisisupo se situngire ahulululi kimanzo asikuwa hai apala kwa tisa mwasilozi kona kuli vaise kuli hava koni kulira vakensa kuli nako ese konle kufita kinako ese konle ko misami yoko kono ni hakuli chwalo hava koni kufa lumenyo vakensa kuli koto ene bakonle kulifa kikoto yetu na ahulululi ki manzwi avosivu avui ao ane basweli kunovulela kona kuli lwanzwe la pili ni likandele mi vosivu avui wazweli pili kuvulela kuli vaizovulukiwa kwa mwamuvu one basazivi kwa hule ni mufutumala waluvasi lwabona hamo cholo ni muvu kone bapepe zwiteng mi bazo spili kuvulela kuli onali vitamane baizovulu kwa ndilisazi vikuli voni lenge ne vainzi mwa musipili kona kuli lilimo zese fitile bene banani sepo ya kukona kuvona kukuta kwa muvili wa stupu savona ndovole stupu kuli bene banani sepo ya kuvona stupu savona kukutela kwa naha habasika kona kupila kutovona ona nako yeo mivaize kuli yomungwi yana pepwa ni vo nilenge vashemi bavona bene bava nguzi hamo chwalo ni baba mvaluvasi ne vatimela mivo msalavona nivona bakutiro timela mwasili mosa 2023 kona kulika ofela avona ne vaile ni mihupulo yene vanani mwasili mosa 1974 mwa mavita avona kwa malizazila mafelelezo lavo nilenge vana vavona vavalalo va basali bakonle kupila kutovona ona tavaye ingeza hala kuvona stopos zavanda tavona kukutela kwa na Namibia mi vaize kuli voni lenge ne basika kona kuziva kuli stop savona ska veskutezi kwa hae na koyengi kono vana vavona vavalalo bakonle kuvona ona makazo ya kukutela kwa stupo savanda tavona kwa naha ya spepo savona kona kuli kimakazo lukali kimakazo kuli litupu zezi zokutela mwana hayaluna mavana hanensweli kunovala ingine litupu za vatu vavasilezi vasupile inge zene nivoni mwali motikala zanze masweli kunoza maiswa kona kuli kunani baba konle kufitisa maikuto kwa makukutela kwa litupu zavo nilenge hamo chalo ni stupo zavo Festus mivaize kuli kukuta kwa stupo zavo Festus kinako ye tompeha kinako ya kukona kunchafaza naha kaufelayo na hamo chalo ni kuva ninako ya kupuzo miku ya kama nzaba na vaize kuli kuli kinako ye fitelela ninako ya valuvasi kuli kinto ya naha kaufela kuli kinako ya kunchafaza ya kuhupula hamo chalo ni kukona kutisaswalisano vone hale na vapepile mwasili mosa 1931 kwa sivaka sesivahala ka ona inge mi sebato itenga malita vaza politiki mi seri kutoizvahaza kakuva iyo mungwe yanalwanela tukuluho yanaha mi sebato tamiwa ma sirimo sa 1966 kapa 1967 kwa omongolongo mbashe mi kuya kamanzwi avalovasi kutiseri kutotomelwa koto masirimo sa 1968 makweli ya yowa makweli ya yowa mikutiseri kulumelwa kwa tolongo yenezivahala ka Robben Island mwana ya South Africa kona kuli asamlaho alilimo na lilimo zene vasiyo kwa naha yene ya spepo kele bayokutela kwa haye kuya kamanzwi avene vasweli kunovulela ona manzwi ya mivaize kuli kuyokuta kwavona kisisupo kisisupo sesifitelela sisupo sa situpo sa mutu kuyokutela havo kono kisisupo sakukona kunchafa za tompo hamocholo ni kukona kuitumela likezo zine bakonele kuyeza mwanako lyakulwanela tukuluho yanaha pilo lwapotela misika miasamlaho lu tozwela pili musike mwaya kwa ule kona kuli luhamoho
Planning a trip from the coast to the north? Then travel with Intercape. Safe, dependable, and affordable with over 50 years of trusted service. From the 31st of July 2026, experience our new Valfus Bay to Otapi and Okahawo via Oshakati route with convenient stops in Swakopmund, Arandes, Misakos, Karibib, Omaruru, Kalkfeld, Ochivarongo, Otavi, Tsumeb, Oshivelo, Omuthia, Onyanya, Onankali, Ondangwa, Ongwadiva, and Oshakati. Enjoy 50 kg of free luggage with your journey. Book your ticket at your nearest Intercape office on the Intercape app or call 081-950-2100. That's 081-950-2100. You can also visit our Intercape office at the June Mall Valfus Bay for bookings and inquiries. Intercape. Safe, dependable, and affordable.
Nikona kuli lwanzwe la pili nisakangana nisikuwase kusisa masilozi nikona kuli bomweteleli wanaha vaize kuli naha Namibia ikonle kwa muhela ha mochwalo nikonle kwa muhela ha mochwalo ni litupu za vatu vatolikana mashumi alo vapeli ni zene 84 mekili tupu zeveilwe kwansi vakasisi vahala ka iziko museum mwanaha ya South Africa mi vaize kuli ona litupu ze kili tupu ze yemela vatu bene bakonle kwa mohiwa kovazwa ha mochwalo bakonle kwa mohiwa na kwa yavona ya kwa mulaho mwanako mwone kulwaniwa mivaize kuli onali tupoze kili tupoze sasi ala kulupolisa nako iyaluna ya kwa mulaho mivaize kuli kele kufita mivaize kuli luswanela kutofita fatumelelano ya kuli lukona kuli lukona kuva tompa chwani ona vatuva mi vaise kuli vatakuzivisa naha kwama ona litupu za vatuva zeiveirwe ona kwa museum ye mi vaise kulizika kona kuveiwa ona kwa museum konja hava katofita fatumelelano ya kuli bazwela chwani pili kona kuli lizazile liswana au kimanza bamwetereri lizazile liswana lukonle kwa mhela chwalo litupu za lindo alume litupu zepeli za lindo alume za aluna mikilindo alume zene inzi matolongo ya Robben Island mana South Africa mikivavangwi mahala vatu va silezi vao litupu zavona zikonleko kutiswa kwa haye kachenu kukona kutopumula kokupumuzi lindo alume ni lindo akati zengwi mi bomwetereri wanaha vakonle kwekeza fama nzu avona kuli ne lindo alume vene vakonle kulwanela tukuluho ya naha ya luna kona kuli kachenu vatu ne vakopani kwasi vaka sahiros eka kukona nikukona kuvona kezo ya kupuzo nikukona kuvona kezo ya kupuzo kupuzo ya kukupula vatu vavaizokuta nekukona kutotompwa kona kuli ndibona kuli kavukuswani nikaemela fo silozi fokumwe vatu vanolombanga kuli nivotela amaso silozi esakona hali kono niti kukuli fokumwisa apalanga ndati fokumwisa apalanga suhulona sasa kunoeza kuli muzwisa maskuwa musisa masilozi awa sewa kona sesa tatafalanga insingi kuvapala kona kuli lo swaleva Hendrix lute kuli vona valukandekelanya ensha mutozi chwani
ahande mina mutozi chwani
lutozi hande ni luna
nitumezi kwa kulivuza kangwe
kamsa muyakai
kamsoni kave ni zifera hatuna zilikaezi
kwa skiriti saza mbezi hakuna mukiti walindo alume
oteni kwa teni kono mutu ukatereza kuli ukacherwa kai kala terera hande
apa ni nanzika kona kuvona kuli uyocherwa kai mukiti wavate
kipana
nsali tezi na kuli nivone kuli uyocherwa kai mukiti mwa skiriti saza mbezi luna ulteni wa musevezi
okay kihande vali kuti hakuna chosa mutu yavuzwa nikona kuli seveza kokonde mutu hanza seveza ipeto mine na wazima kuli waji kachenu nitolezi basi sepe hapo kona kuli tusepe salu nafasi yake
kora kuli kachenu lwambozi nikalezi tava ya vale vene vatamiriwa vere kiva kwa regional council anza pa mai hopola tava yani
nelikire nayo utwa
nikona kuli muzeko wabo na vakonle kutozusa mwa kuta etona mi vauzuse vakenisa kuli hakuna vupaki hande vovukona kuzeza muzeko opili kona kuli ukonle kufera hanizwa fo nekeni fata vaya mama yani hatimezi mavani anza pamoja utwile mama yani hatimezi mavani kwa shekidwela
ni utwile kono ni scout handle kandela teni kuna ni wale vandikandeke kono ni scout hali hande
kona kuli mana nata vayani ni nikalile kuni kuyutwe ani toba fa moyo na fa chale sei ni pale lwa kuli nikaikalila kai kona kuli manzi bwani mavani manzi bwani sentobo na piho ya tenese ba hivihile kwa makande kona kuli piho ye vihile babihakuli muliro kuti nokalile kucha mwamsiyo mwane balovezi ni bana babona babeli basali bani mi seli kuitahanira kuzisabana na fa window kono bona kabumai abaska kona kubale ha miseli kuchela mwandu sorry kona kuli kuna ni baba tamirwe matava yo mutozi chwani bopita
Ande mtozi.
Mutozi hande.
Aolo. Bazo watu wa maswali wanjenje mratole.
Ni bazo ile fatene. Amska watu wa maswali baile kwa kuta. Baile kwa kuta ko walisalicho.
Oh.
Babale skuli baile kwa kuta ko walisalicho.
Turisti. Aba inzone twaba tubabona.
Kona wa Hendrix kivafa.
Batole ni wana wa Hendrix.
Ishangwe bopita mulubere. Mulubere bopita nako yewe ile kuli lubona nayo na kwa security ina savera kuli nimivone. Nutwanga kwa kuli mteni machoto.
Baha kibane baba inzi kwa choto.
Kibo
pita wa mamule ningi. Baba pira mamule ningi.
Okay. Livizo la bwana lini kuplisa hulu tele mazazia ni watu hane vaipe ama vizo wa tele kwa kuli vayoka vango ni va zambezi se vayolaha kale referisa siyo ama vizo wa tele vavande mwezi kwa siri sa zambezi kwa rundu kwa kuli ane va seriku no chia chwalo ground dikao sera neri tele kona kunde kusazi bahali kutele kiufie pate ni ana sondera kulikena na nisa kale kona vopita ona vao
vapita kimi na vapele
galindeme Obanali Neni Teresa kutia ma ya kuchira pa kuchisa zena mbula ndo voma solesa okule na chizendo ya mutu
mana kuli hakindu ya mutu kakuli bato banne bainandu ili
mutu ni mfumali
haki mutu ni mfumali wa evo pita namusika Teresa kwa wayalesi
bani ntrefu mana afali
kona kuli mama mana neskana kakuli falu seri kukulovera kona kuli nali kanderene nutule mavani mama yo yachezi mwandu niyo mungi musali ene varentingani ena fandu fone balwanire ne batolo baniri kangi mane seri kutoswala na famuviri kona kuli chalefa kuna ne kuluvelo ya kuli yo yana alwanire ni ene varentingandu ilimi kumana wali mwendikia na atukize muliro kakuli nasio fandu vatu na hane vatolika kulika kuvula ya skola uli vatu se mama yani nasio fandu nevele mapokola hava tofita hava skato mufumana fandu nasio kono piho eni voni fali kepela va NBC vavihile kuli kuna ni mutu ye vatamiri ya enzima stocks ye vatakwe ovuzali puzo kwa ma onatava hii
Okay. Vo manalisa. Onaona fa kuli yana msali yona atovile. Kakuli maavani hane mtereza likambe. Kwa kumutu yomu mweli ndambo. Kuvona. Kakuli na bantu baba ngubani kaolera ngasera vani vulera kuli hoko yende fo vatakukandekera likambele nani tolokera kuli musali yo hava tosika mapolisa onda kuya vusiku wa ima lova pani ne vamufumani niene ingasi kunolisa kulizeza vavangu vatu kuli iyo tambo waka uchezi mwanzo kona kuli mapolisa ne vasina temuho ya kuli kiena musali ya zeko vie twalo ko jihase vautireli kande la kuli ye naye nayo na alwana niyo ya kesi ya kezi mwanzo
na aliteni fateni yo musali yo
na naliteni fateni kona kuli hana asiri kuna uvulera twalo pa phone kona mwana azama era inga toba haingi ani kuyeza kulinge kuli usiri wa kambeka ni vavangu vatu mapolisa vana hasa vatovu sa ufumana statement luli sekuto mane hakuli sebo batolokera kuli mani ena mutu yona liteni ona fakiene nayo yana siri kuna vulera pa sole olona pa inza siri kuna vulera pa phone sa tova kukwera kuya matolopo pa center kona kone ni utire kuli olona ko kona kone vaiva mutamera izazile lelitata lona la baba
kakuli nana nikandekela notule kuli kuti nasio mapokola vaizoli kumuliza za kuli oko tahe kwanu kufitire kozi na sari kuno fama excuse mawe hani na masherenga akutisa kona mawe haniyo
mani kimukwa sera wakuli kuzwa fafoni ikona kuva almost half a kilo hapa hadizivika pavateni vale vade vadikambekera mavadi iwo kazi ni waka mabebazi takuli nani ina kwa cowboy fama ya mafelelezo yezimuka ufidise kiwela nemukai kutwela kuvona hadi wakami vulelela kuli mutu yona liteni wana vusiku voo kakuli nekuna ni yale mota yekimusamulilo nekuna ni ama polisi pateki kana kuli kafera zona kana zene zivazo sizona mwana bo ma polisi ni mamulilo hasa wafumani ikizo ya kuli kuna ni kozi yekile ya mutu yake zimwamu kana kuli vona hane vazo hane vamu vona lusi ya teknologula fafoni
Mashek dwela.
Nimezeza.
Mashek dwela.
Sana kulisana likaze paga hezi.
Yo kimba shunga kazinduru.
Sha?
Nduya stina.
Kendo ya stina. Mashek dwela kusina zimbasho kwani. Kuli kuna zimbasho mashek dwela.
Ezite nikono bandu stina kona bagata.
Nani ziva kuli mandu astina kona enzi mashek dwela.
Nikono mama kuva ya hile tumbashwa patuko. Za mavazi. Sana kili kande leri savisa luli. Hulo
Konza wana fomu lia noma kapagi because ya vana kapagi imunasira kapagi.
Alo zepe kuli sanesti sizendo akisikamani. Mina muture kuli mva Hendrix.
Kama kuswali nani utire kuli ona vatu yo ana simenti na lwani pa yananda mwa hayo kakuli ye na namu seva kuli haso meri kuvulera ni muna yanamu tekizevana kona kuli ona kuseva onako kona kone kusive kuli kuze nindwa yenanyambi yenayo yanachezi mandu kuti nanatire na mutiyo sakuya satulekeni utire kana kuli neri kukutisafera vumaso kavumaso fo kuli samtuza mate
tsalela hano twisi kuli mutu yakona mulelo wa haye neri kusavisa neri kuvakisa kapana vata kuvulaya nasa zivuli wakone kuvulaya zaeza
fo handiko ndikupaka fateni kapaderi padisa esi luvule lecho anakuli vavangu vatu uhupla kuli mendi haka yezafika kozi yate nikava nyani kanti iva yetuna kakuli kutrof maneha kuli kuna ni mafula akuvea mamota marumo na mo
Famunyako.
Ni famunyako wala kusema tola terera likande kando aene panga hezi ili watu wasika pumulakala sabato nguganya ona kalulo eo pando ya vona dukuto vona kulikanti ya ezizekezo kene na yo ene balwana biena kakuli kusamba kusimwa tabayo haisa halakale mahala watu wabiri kwa finance ili maibona po
Esa no tere kuli yo mama yo munke muluti.
Adifika ziva kono yedi sigire fera kuli kwa seveza kiyo yo mungu ya timezi na seveza kwa likolo la filalanda ili shitu kwa adi kono na fika kwa nisa ni heke likweli ze talizoho kakuya samanu utozi kakuli nali kandeleo nelisi manana ziwa na aferile kono yo na bilumo ya limota delui utire fafa ndufolu inasa kono neluskale mahakuli nesi kama ikireseza heki kono konjima ziwa na baba ni mana toad
Mtoto alisenesiza hizi kisikana. Za sabisaze.
Nadi mutu ya tola hulu ya tola mandu half day fande half day
Kita bene como que se zahulu.
Wale kona nyandiso ya kwamba la pao na eo akikuli mwendiki nyandiso sera mahala amuna nemusali kono vatu wova iswana muna yo mungu kana kunyandisa muna yo mungu musali yo mungu kana kunyandisa musali yo mungu ikazeo hema kuli hazikizuri luvule iswana kuli hema kuli hazikizuri kwa kuswanela maivona na mimi nalo alwana hakuna kwa yozi biha luvona kuli lukazi hata zikasela hata likaze swana hata za kutela mali kuyosi tapate ni matata panasuna ao nana kuli mimi na muswale fateri mwerezi watu wawa
Luka vaereza kuisakai. Kakuli mwabona likezo za kuyezanga mutu inganye mire hangata kilikezo ze batu inyazanga batu hangata kene lweleza fafa moya kuli hamunye mire vana ni basali hamunye mire monano hemwe moyeza moyeko kumwe konja hamkawe kutaolikele mufolelwa mwendi kona mkawe okuta chale kona tabene nibuza nevile mabane kuli ne musali onanye mirenge sikamanyi haiva kulike na achisize muliro nanye mirenge sikamanyi kuli mane kaofena nako yana angile kunanu hakuya kwa kuleka petulu mane haisi kuyokuta mane haisi kutoyeza likezana yeze kutukisa muliro kuti hakuna fana konle kufolelwa kapakuina ni kukupula kuli ya fosa halakezo kuti hakuna
vatiri hakuna mtu ya saikela
hane kuli hakuna mtu ya safolelwi hane upola kapande balwanile na koma infone balwanezi na sonela waheza cool down
na kweyengwi malili mozese ilile onaona kwanu kakati mamuli walile kata kwa mamulene iko kuna ni musuzani yele ni vatire kale koko nayozwa neri mushimani ya kisuhu kona kuli na kweyengwi satonu nyeni satonu vulele la kuli kapa nuwe na wana tabati tabaye ni kasiye sasi yetu na hulu kale ifadhiria hulu kuli ikatona tuwaka kuli na wakafera hadi posa kwa livata kwa ni neri kuna tu amani kwa disera me nase ni muvulele la kuli haona kuswa vakensana vakensakuli na nazi vakuitereza nazi vakuli hani yeza keza inge ni biedile ikakena mavutata kwa pili kala kuli tava empty ya kuli vatu vatavela hulu kulumbiwa kulienda kienda yakona kuyeza sitafeo
kiena azi vako na tamanfaindi
kala kuli koma serezo aliza seri maswazi maswazi serana eni kona kuvulaya kuli kimaswazi ikuli mutu hashwa anisa kona kukutafutiro wa hai kona kuli nikaswava kuli nikafumana kaimo yao mswamera kona likazewa haluzini hande kono nikavuzisisa likakumi solokera hape kamso anikakutafa moya kono likazeo ikona zigizieza mani hane nieni ona soge nishukuna wakandakiro alikandeleo nekuna nimupokola yo mungu wa special field posiana azo fateki kona kuli elito manavu nisi walikambe lakuli okay kanti ini tavae vasuri kuno nivulele lava kale kona likaze pagahala kwanu kwa kasi sauna
menje menati ya hulu
njina mati ya hulu niti isare
Lasa visa
amalikaze kona kuli mimi naona 4 musauta molu inezilu na vatu kiswana onaona 4 halu utiroona ze nilu na selusa vera lalu nali fukuli medili kaswa mengelona kanti alu na mafu akati jana maivona walisona likaze somera kumabelwa zeo kulivo Abigail msema alwananga kuzatu nikuitivala
Lasa visa
mina alwananga nibina kuna nikomuferera
Bana nani kuzilata nazo hani zilatira usani vulela faya kulinika kuvulaya nayo kuma polisa Mana usani vulela faya kani kuihaye kuma polisa mani hani hani zilati
akuna kuliyeha mukafita kwa teji
mani hani zilati
kale maavona kuli vatu foku mwi luvula ekuli kuna nilizale zema vula kuli kipri koshi mamela ikaige sava teji mugata walu na vatu foku mwi aluna na kama hani kavula kuli conscience
conscious kuikopola mugata walu na vatu aluikupulani kuli okay ni mamereka sepiri kaiza harakale kono okugulu wangu feranga famo haji kuli mendita bayale kona ikangu kusafera kanti mazira yengu itabayale haijeni mabona ale zengu chakizi kivo wa Abigail kiso naona zoze lwambozi kiso naona zoze lwambozi yeah
kizende nina hani kai pomadera kama kate nikabi
mane mwatisa
nikabi shikola ngurubi amwe hamate
yeni
ape hani kwa niku mivulele ya makandama na pisi nisizeni eva pamuni nata kwa toho
Nina ko ya unesa esa liyo nilona.
Okay. Fa mtali manga kuli ni novolera fera misuku yake talizo. Hakuli nivolera holo.
Mane hakuna hai mani melizaliza ngero sana ni mizuzu ya mashumi amaveri ngeni sirezi yani ngeni sana 26 minutes ani melizaza. Kola uli mobulezi 24 minutes ka ulike kusialela 2 minutes fa.
2 minutes fa yani voda.
Ki 22 minutes ese mobulezi?
Nada ninga kuli mwendi muvodi kuli nivolera hulu.
Mane hakuna.
Hulu. Okay. Ko hande nika zalikandele kuvale vondambo. Hanika kutafamo ya hamkadi hema kuli mukadiliza zaka patikaliza. Nika mitolokera hande kakukenisa. Kuverera kumutu yana aiponera luli. Yana ya vonika beta. Sana kuli nako kona nikalumberi sabatu. Hamskale mwa kuli hamskalumberi sabatu baterezi valdo.
Mo mane mo valumberi sizela pamsebala mo valumberi sizela.
Oh, okay. Nitumezea ulikuwa kuniamu hela pamoja. Mulaga mtole handa.
Nshangwe mtole handa ni mina.
Nitumezi mo abiga.
Boma analisa.
Boma analisa, okay.
Boma analisa.
Oh, mubata mayemu wa avushemi wa wanda tami na wana alisa?
Mane kwa nali vizole bani vizanga wa program fa.
Oh, okay, bomba na alisa. Fokere ni mikuteka chwale. Bomba na alisa nanga mtole hande.
Shangwe ritumezi.
Nina nitumezi.
Bye. Nifa kuona full kato emera maliza zira kachenu mikuna manalisa masichawa sendiko. So, bye. Ultova hamo kamso maliza zile luto hupola lindo wakati. Zene luane zina ya luna. Move ni musali omundemi mzole pili kuteleza kwa alipatalazi. Ze sazwe la pili fa wireless ya luna. Konza.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Simon, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Lipuranenge no wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweko tite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili mehola mo iho etike kovano ile koshiwala. Onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebito da njuka okukwetera oipindi konu konda doi nawa. noneudo o tukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshefa o marudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oija mwili nawa ningepata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora itatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko mberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Want to know about Namibia's latest business and economic news? Then look no further than The Villager newspaper. The Villager is an e-paper that is published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for free, directly to your phone or computer. To become a subscriber, simply send a WhatsApp message with your number and email address to 081 200 4144. Be sure to save the phone number as a contact. The Villager, wherever you are.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to On the Radar News Bulletin with me, David Shombe. It's that time of the afternoon that we look at the affairs of business and everything that affect our bread and butter. It's 3 minutes past the hour of 1. It's the 25th of August 2026, one day before Heroes Day celebration in Namibia. We are greeting you from your number one favorite talk radio station, Eagle FM Namibia, and wherever you are. So this is a platform that we look at what is happening in Namibia, what is happening in the region of SADC, what is happening when it comes to international platform, what is happening when it comes to global affairs, what are some of the economic conversations that are going on from local to international affairs. To look at today's news bulletin, we'll start with a conversation, especially between me and my colleague Dwight Links, especially to look at the event that is looking at analysis of policies, environmental policies. What does it mean, especially looking at the current status quo? But the main conversation of today will also be joined by the spokesperson of Electricity Control Board, that is Nelson Ashipala, especially to look at the aspect of electrical compliance among the licensee. What are some of the challenges, especially when it comes to Namibia and electricity compliance, which towns are doing very well, and also what is the danger and the cost of non-compliance of electricity licensee. From there, we'll be able to continue with the conversation, especially where we'll be able to listen to the conversation between HD and also the managing director of RX Forbes, especially to look at the context of what is happening, especially regarding insurance and also the aspect of business. From there, we'll be able to look at what is happening, especially when it comes to international trade. What is happening when it comes to international trade? What is the content of foreign exchange rate? What is the strength of Namibian dollars in comparing to other currency? Then we'll be able to continue with the conversation. Let's look at a short commercial break and come back shortly.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Ngilo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maondo tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana. Onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa noneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendife nawa nokumona oijamwiri nawa ningekwata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko mberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081 270 3727 or the office number 083 2888 400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Yeah, we are moving forward with On the Radar News Bulletin. I'm joined by my colleague Dwight Ling, especially to help us unpack the aspect of policy analysis and policy review, especially from environmental perspective. It is noted that the Access and Benefit Sharing Office met today, engaged with different stakeholders, especially looking at the environment, and also to look at what are some of the challenges, especially in the current benefit sharing office in Namibia. What is the relationship between that and also international environmental laws, and what is the necessity of this engagement? Because looking at the issue of environment, people, they are always discussing at technical terms, but my colleague Dwight Ling will help us to simplify, especially the necessity of the conversation that happened today at the Ministry of Environment and Tourism. Dwight, good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on the radar.
Yep, thank you, David. Good afternoon to the listeners, and
Let's move from technical terms to a real simplification, especially looking at today's engagement. What is the overview of an ongoing engagement, especially within the ministry?
Thank you, David. So specifically, this access and benefit sharing, it starts from an act. To be honest, David, I did hear of this act before.
Yeah.
But between today and let's say the last time I heard of this act was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this would put it in 2024, 2023-ish. And it just went silent from there. And also today, for the first time, is when I actually got to see actual representatives of this office. I thought they would probably be like a division because it sounds a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And also that they started with a steering. They have some of these stakeholders that obviously met today, because I didn't have the luxury of being there the whole day up until 4 o'clock to observe the whole process, engagements and negotiations and insights that would be developed. I don't have the luxury to be there until 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that what is seen to come from this engagement would be a steering committee and an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
Now, usually, just for the listeners to understand, sometimes when we report on things like the development of a steering committee or the appointment of a steering committee and an ad hoc committee, we don't hear in very simple language, like you said, the simplification, that changes need to be done to existing laws or to existing policies.
Yeah.
But the reason when you look at the variety of the representation, meaning for like folks today, we had academics there, we had representatives from a representative from PIPA, a representative from NAMPOL, a representative from the what is that department in MEFT, the one that deals with nature conservation, the guys that have the uniforms that you see
the rangers.
The range, yeah, but it's that specific department that the rangers fall under because one of the guys had a uniform on. And then it was also about the Ministry of Agriculture sent a scientist over as well to represent. So you can see at length the scope of the public representation. Civil society was also there, and there was a traditional authority representation to an extent. The one gentleman who was there. So this particular scenario was aimed at improving this current legislation that I'm sitting here in front of me, and its supporting document from where it actually comes from, the Nagoya Protocol. But I'll leave it right there, David, so you can ask the next question.
Yeah, now somebody is listening, so you speak about the Nagoya Protocols. Why Namibia is attached to international platform when it comes to environment, and what is the necessity of this engagement? Is it only engagement of scientists, or there is something that an ordinary person can be able to get something from it?
It's actually a good question you asked that, David, because I only found out today specifically at this engagement of the access and benefit sharing division or department, as they call themselves. I only found out today specifically that our current President Nandi Ndaitwah, was, when she was Minister of Environment, she was one of the African representatives who technically helped craft the Nagoya Protocol. And the protocol speaks towards, its name is below the Nagoya part. Its name is Access to Genetic Resources and the Fair and Equitable Sharing of Benefits Arising from Their Utilization, which then feeds into the Convention of Biological Diversity, which is, remember our conversation just before we stepped in here when you asked me which is the big COP? Now, 2026, David, is known as the year of the 3 COPs. So the Convention of Biological Diversity will still take place. We've already seen, because Minister Indeleni Daniels is still in Mongolia. I found out today also. She's still in Mongolia on the COP of desertification, which is taking place which started last week in Mongolia, or in Ulaanbaatar, the capital. And then end of this year is the annual convention of climate change, the next COP that takes place. I forgot which country it is. No, it's the combination of Australia and Turkey later this year. So it's the first time that 2 countries are hosting the COP, but the one is sponsoring the COP in order for it to take place in the other, which is a bit funny, in that scenario.
Now, just before I let you go, before we listen to the expert too, in that discussion, does it require a contribution from an ordinary person, or the review is at a technical level? What is in for me? If there is an individual out there who see people attending meetings or reading what is happening either in social media or print media, but it's too technical, it's too on environmental part, but what is in for an ordinary person in that conversation?
The direct impact on the ground is based upon, for example, traditional knowledge about traditional products. So if we look at things like Devil's Claw, what's that tree? I almost said Mopani tree. The other tree, Moringa tree. And its particular medicinal values or medicinal value. Things like that specifically. Now, it boils down to a previous example that I've had here also on Eagle FM specifically, where I went to an engagement where a researcher from UNAM presented at a Spain-Namibia Environmental Forum on climate change. And this lady presented a discussion how 5 men, David, 5 men dominated Namibia's Devil's Claw export market until the government improved on the access to the resource and who actually benefits. Now, remember, the second part of this thing's name is benefit sharing.
Yeah.
So it's this overall theme that we've been hearing from the president herself, where she keeps since last year reiterating we are too few to be poor,
Yeah.
and that the resources need to work for us. We heard that last week once again. And the other dimension is obviously also the existing products that exist. Remember, oil and gas, green hydrogen they are in the pipeline. They're coming along.
Yeah.
But there are existing things that have been there already. How do you amplify those benefits? So, for example, that Devil's Claw example I mentioned, the 5 guys, out of the 5, 4 of them were foreigners. And these guys then would pay a Namibian price. This is the example that Madam Kauna Schroeder, who is the voice that the listeners will hear right now,
Yeah.
the particular indication that she shared right now was you would hear that Namibia, she gives a statistic also there, Namibia has dominates 90% of the Devil's Claw market globally. We dominate it in supply.
But only few people.
In monetary value, what we get back for that 90% supply is less than it's less than 1%, she says. Whereas the overall global market in a US dollar denomination is more than 200 million US dollars. So what's happening between the local community sitting here, who are the guardians, the trustees, and stewards of that local resource, what happens here, and the guy who's the middleman potentially selling the resource off. Now, there's a similar thing that has happened in South Africa.
Yeah.
But I actually, just to summarize it there for us.
Yeah, just lastly, what is the expected outcome from this discussion? What is the ministry expected to get? What are the academicians getting? And also, how is the ordinary Namibians benefit from this? And is the communication really clear to make sure that those who are on the ground understand what is happening, what is in for them?
Yeah.
Let's look at the outcome.
Okay, so the proposed outcome, because like I said, this whole engagement is still going to take place the whole of today.
Yeah.
The proposed outcome to see is potentially, from what I could observe, the existing law might have amendments suggested to it because of the steering committee and the ad hoc committee that are going to encompass from that. The stage where I left the engagement from was when the 2 committees had to review their terms of reference. So that specifically speaks towards the roles that the insights and where they'll have contributions stemming from them into the recommendations. The overall scenario potentially, I cannot put a date on it because the date might be mentioned at the presentations that I had to leave, is probably by the end of this year. Even though Madam Schroeder did highlight early next year in 2027, the first half of next year, but at least by end of this year, 2026, that they have to see certain concrete recommendations being already adopted so that the next developments stem into the new year or actually kick off in the new year. And this could be potentially things of avoiding fragmentation between agencies and ministries and offices.
Yeah.
Because I asked a question on GMOs.
Yeah.
Because just so that our listeners know, there's a part here that describes, let me just cite the Nagoya Protocol, access to genetic resources and fair and equitable sharing. David, that already should tell you that this is something that even overlaps in the discussion of GMOs that I've already been talking about.
Yeah.
And that here we on Eagle FM, we've already been citing. So a natural resource can be, like if you take a plant, it can be twisted in a lab or modified in a lab, and then it becomes a GMO variant. So these particular sets of natural products, natural items, which can be, a multinational can come from far, a pharmaceutical or cosmetic company can come from far. They just need one small part of a plant, and then they can change the genetic code of that plant to either make it more climate resistant, be a quick grower, the plant grows very quickly as opposed to its old cycle, things like that. So it has overlapping functions, and I noticed that there were a few agencies and ministries not present.
Indeed. Yes, Dwight, thank you for those input. Thank you for that contribution. And we'll listen to Dr. Kauna Schroeder.
Yeah. You have to say the German properly, Schroeder.
Yeah. Then to look at the expert. Then come back shortly. Stay tuned.
Article 100 of the Constitution vests natural resources in the state where not otherwise lawfully owned. Article 95L commits the state to sustainably use the living natural resources of the benefit sharing of all Namibians present and into perpetuity. The Access to Genetic and Biological Resources and Associated Traditional Knowledge Act, Act 2017, Act number 2 of 2017, gives legislative effect to those provisions. Section 2, and I hope you have it in your files, sets out 9 objects, including the inalienable rights of local communities and the effective participation of communities with a particular focus on women. This is enshrined in the Act. So let us just go to the presentation. In short, what I would want to let us know is that Namibia's Act covers biological resources, genetic resources, derivatives, pathogens, digital sequence information, and associated traditional knowledge. And so many laws cover only genetic resources. Ours does not. Our law covers both genetic and biological resources. And this is the breadth, always a single domestic system to service obligations under the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Food and Agriculture Organization International Treaty, the Plant Genetic Resources, the World Health Organization Pandemic Agreement, the World Intellectual Property Organization Treaty on Genetic Resources, and the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement that basically falls under the armpits. It's not on the screen. Maybe I must put the screen off so that you can maybe look at me. Am I? Put it off that side and so that you can listen to me. Otherwise, you read there, and if you read something that I'm not saying here, then you want to make a note of that. Maybe we must pause that for now, and I can share the slides of that particular presentation. That presentation is detailed. So the scope of the Nagoya Protocol is limited on international level because under the CBD it has a particular focus, but in reality, when you domesticate international laws, whatever we negotiate on an international level, in terms of Article 144, we are supposed to be responsive to of the Constitution. We are responsive to our international laws. If we have signed, ratified, or acceded to these laws. Now, the Nagoya Protocol, we have signed and we have acceded to it. And because we have done that, we needed to domesticate it. And when we domesticated this law, we expanded the scope of the Nagoya Protocol. Remember, when you negotiate on international level, you negotiate on a compromise basis. You cannot get everything that you want because it is over 194 countries across the world that negotiates. And every country has their own circumstances. They have their own way of doing things, how they protect their biodiversity, how they deal with the different pieces of legislation. And therefore, within Article 15 of the Nagoya Protocol, we are mandated to develop our own administrative policies. And that is what we did. So Namibia has broadened the scope of the Nagoya Protocol. And so we cover in our act biological resources, genetic resources, derivatives, pathogens, digital sequence information, and as I indicated, associated traditional knowledge. And we are very strong on our traditional knowledge that is associated with genetic and biological resources. For those of us who are doing research and who work with communities, we do know that our communities innocently or sometimes ignorantly share their traditional knowledge with researchers, with tourists, and those information are most of the time or many a times used for commercialization and for any and many types of products. What the ABS Act does is to protect the rights of these communities. And so for those of you who are in the spaces where submissions for applications are made or where you encourage researchers, because we want to have new findings every other time. We want to encourage students to do research. Even in our workspaces, we want to encourage research because we want to speak on facts, we want to speak on evidence, and we want to make recommendations to the government in terms of development, but based on facts. And sometimes the research that we do, if it has a component of commercial value, which means that any of these resources, if there is a potential commercial value to it, then it means it falls in the armpits of ABS. Okay? Now, where do we stand today? Just for you as the committee to have a background and know what you're going to deal with as you get on board. The office has issued permits and generated revenue for the Treasury since 2022. Guidelines and online permitting systems were launched in 2024. Namibia has not yet published an international recognized certificate of compliance on access and benefit sharing clearinghouse. Now, under the international regime, under the Convention of Biological Diversity and under the Nagoya Protocol, we have the clearinghouse mechanism. What the clearinghouse mechanism expects of us is to post and submit or publish on the clearinghouse mechanism the permits that we issue, the laws, the guidelines, the standard operational procedures that we have. And so international communities will be able to access this information. And Namibia has been very deliberate until this time not to put our information out there because we did not yet receive consent from those communities whose information has been accessed, number one. Number two, we have not received consent from the steering committee, which is and serve as the advisory body for access and benefit sharing, to clear that aspect and tell us which parts are we able to upload and which parts not. Now, this has an impact on us because it denies some of our people from opportunities for investors and so forth, because investors access our websites, the CBD website, to see which countries have laws, which countries deal with what type of resources, and then engage with focal points to see how best they can support or invest in particular countries. So India has published over 1,500, South Africa 34, and this is our most visible compliance gap, and it is squarely within these committees' remit to help us close that gap. Why does this matter economically? ABS and the entire implementation of this act matters economically because Namibia supplies over 90% of the world's devil's claw. Just last week, Friday, we had a meeting with another investor, and they want to expand their investment. But there's so many things that we need to put in place and that we need to get right in order to make sure that our people don't only give, harvest and over-harvest and then give. What we shared with this particular investor was that we would want to see that we also become, or our communities also become producers and manufacturers of whatever products, be it pharmaceutical, be it cosmetic, whatnot. But we want to see, we don't want to see benefit sharing and then you say we bought them a printer and they had a workshop. We passed that stage.
Yeah, that is Dr. Kauna Schroeder looking at beneficiation from natural resources, especially in the aspect of environment, touch on the issue of investor, and also prioritization of indigenous Namibians, especially when it comes to critical natural resources in the area of environment, such as devil claw, and also to say the people within the communities may end up sharing information that end up being commercialized, especially to visitors, tourists, and also those who are looking for opportunities, and also trying to understand on what is happening. So the content of the conversation is looking at the policy, the national policy, the connection to international policy, and also to look at how can Namibians benefit from its natural resources, especially looking at environment and also other resources. So let's look at a short commercial break. Then we'll be in communication with the head of stakeholder engagement and communication from Electricity Control Board, that is Nelson Ashipala, to look at the recently released report on national electricity infrastructure status report, and also to look at the aspect of compliance among the licensees. What is the status of Namibia electricity? And also, what are some of the challenges and which area are we doing well? I'm also going to ask him, especially to look at the price of maintaining infrastructure on ordinary Namibians. Stay tuned. We are coming back shortly.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
Scandal.
Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
ngelo wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshefa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna evitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado nawa noneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningekwata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora itatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Yeah, we are moving forward with On the Radar News Bulletin. As I indicated, we are joined on the line by the head of stakeholder engagement and communication from Electricity Control Board. I called him just to look at the aspect of electricity compliance, but also most importantly, to look at the recently released report on infrastructure status on Namibia electrical infrastructure. Mr. Nelson Ashpala, thank you for making time and also joining us on the Radar News Bulletin. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you doing? Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your listeners.
No, we are doing well. Maybe before we look at the main conversation, can you please just, in short, give us an overview of the report that was recently released on the status of electricity infrastructure in Namibia? Somebody want to us to say, where are we standing in terms of electricity infrastructure in Namibia? Are we doing very well? Are we doing our best? Or we are in a difficult situation? Just look at that and we go into the conversation.
Yes, no, thank you. The report is quite clear.
Yeah.
We are doing quite well as a nation. Most of our infrastructure, as reported, is satisfactory. It's at a satisfactory level. Obviously, there are certain concerns or small concerns from pockets around of the country. When we talk of farming schemes and so forth, that came out as a concern. There was also a concept of mines that also came out as a concern, whereby we are saying that their infrastructure is a bit of a worry to us as the Electricity Control Board. It should also be a worry to those in the industry and to the nation at large. We are saying that obviously with the farmers, one can put it past them because it's not their main source of investment and operations. They might not have the skills, but what we are saying is also in this report that that utilities where we have the red, this is your Seno red, Erongo red, no red. We are quite satisfied with the infrastructure around these areas. So we are quite satisfied, and this is why we always encourage, or we are now trying to educate those within the borders of Namibia for them to understand the importance of the reds when it comes to constant supply of electricity.
Now looking at areas of compliance, particularly just to have electrical infrastructure in order. In terms of municipalities and town council and village council, where are we standing?
What we are saying is that there are different cases of each one has its own different case. For example, if I can give you an example of Tsumeb, for example, we did raise a concern with the state of the electricity, and with this, after we picked up these concerns, they were able to report back to us to say that they have mixed or they have fixed some of these areas which we are looking at. And I think they highlighted to us to say that as from May this year, they haven't had any more blackouts. So for us, it's satisfying. But then there are still areas of concern. There are still areas where we could actually do well. The south obviously is a concern. When we talk about the south, we're not talking about your Kiedman Swap and your Marienthal, basically where the establishment of the red has not taken off as of yet fully. So these areas, there will be a concern because, like I've highlighted to you, it is quite important for one to understand the importance of having the reds within these facilities. What they do is not only do they provide the correct skills for ensuring maintenance and for ensuring that there is less downtime, they also ensure that there is a reinvestment of funds back into the grid as compared to, let's say, a certain municipality within having to take money from maintenance of electricity to divert it to a different budget, and obviously having to compromise your infrastructures. So this is some of the things which have come out. So, but it's a different case for each and every municipality. But it's ECB as per its mandate. We will keep on engaging. We will keep on interrogating, and we will keep on informing the nation on concerns if they arise.
Yeah. Now, maybe just before we go to the last question, because my concern is on the cost, especially looking at the future. Now, what could be the reason Namdeb as a mine is a poor performer? Is it not having any help? Is it because of the diamond? And what need to be done, especially looking at that aspect? And one is also expect to say when Nante be standing at the level of where the state also have enough stakes, especially looking at infrastructure. What could be the real problem there? I think it's concerning.
Yes, it's good that you bring this out, and it's good that you do mention diamonds and whatnot. So we should try to remember that for infrastructure such as this, constant maintenance has to go on. And with this, what we're highlighting is one requires that experience in running this maintenance. So I think from our end, we're just hoping that with the establishment of SORED, this is now your Southern Red, we're hoping that it will be able to determine where the actual problem is and how can this be fixed. But I think, like I've highlighted earlier, for those where there's expertise in infrastructure management, for areas where there is expertise in understanding that that establishment of REDs, for example, creates that value addition and value chain. We did see good results. We are hoping that going forward, we will see good results. Going forward, we're able to see changes in what we've spent in. But for now, it is not really a very, very strong matter of concern. But we will keep on engaging the mines. We will keep on engaging the southern towns just to find how we can establish and improve on the establishment of electricity.
So just the last one. So you are saying REDs, they are more capacitated, they have technical skills, and easy for them to identify challenges?
Definitely. It's definitely there. They are distributors in the end. Its operational benchmarking has obviously shown that there are clear lessons which you can pick up from this. You have your dedicated structural management, you have your rigorous preventative maintenance, you have your technical capacity and qualified staff. You have your digital tracking, so it works. It does work, and I know it's a debate which has been going on, but I would like to believe that it is perhaps for us not having known. And when I say us, I'm not talking us as a nation. We might perhaps not know on the positiveness that comes out of having established REDs. Okay. But having a dedicated structural management is quite it's quite key in ensuring that the utilities are taking a work mode.
Just hold on for a commercial break. Stay on the line.
Okay.
Need some help with the groceries this month? Then USave has a competition that is just for you. Every Friday between 1 and 2 p.m., Eagle FM will be giving away a $500 USave voucher. To stand a chance of winning the $500 USave voucher, all you have to do is follow Eagle FM Namibia on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and be on the lookout for the weekly competition question. USave, where good food costs less.
Yeah, Nelson Ashipala, last question, maybe just in 2 minutes due to time, is the future. Because my concern as an ordinary person is the cost. Because one of the explanations that ECB, what you have always been also telling us and also giving us information is that some of the cost has to do with upgrading of infrastructure. When you have a status of Namibia electricity infrastructure like this, at some point it's satisfactory, at some point it's poor, and the general overall is understandable. Is this continuation of upgrading not going to also force increment in terms of electricity in the future, and what can be done maybe moving forward?
I would like to assume that, or I would like us to understand that it is much more costlier for Namibia to start having blackouts as compared to a 3% increase, for example, in tariffs and so forth. I would like us to understand that the maintenance of power lines, the maintenance of our grid, the maintenance of electricity generation, there is a cost induced to it. Now, obviously, one has to play in between a reasonable increase versus if there was no increase at all and your infrastructure having to collapse as time goes, whereby there is perhaps no grid management, where there isn't much happening on the grid, and then in the end we start ending up like the same problem which our neighbors had, which is electricity downtime, which is blackouts. So from our end, it's quite satisfactory knowing that it is gradual small numbers of tariff increases that are happening. So we are quite satisfied, and I just want the nation to understand that this is something which has to happen because obviously we have to maintain and ensure we have healthy grids. So please, as a nation, let us just be alerted to say that there is a need for us to have residual increases just to ensure that we do not end up in a situation where our neighbors had ended in.
Yes, Nestor Nashpara, thank you for taking that time, and we'll call you again moving into the future. Thank you.
Not a problem. Have a good day.
All right, Sharp. Yeah, that is Nestor Nashpara from ECB, especially to look at the aspect of upgrading of electricity infrastructure. Now, looking ahead, my colleague HD got into the conversation with the managing director of RX Forbes, that is Frederick Mura, to look at what is investment policy statement and analyze that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Radar. We are now joined by a very special guest, that is Mr. Frederick Miller, the Managing Director of Alex Forbes, joining us here today. Mr. Miller, how are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, Heidi. I'm very good, thanks very much.
Yes, and today you are joining us to talk about investment policy statement. So let's begin with the basics. What is an investment policy statement?
So the investment policy statement of a retirement fund contains information about the fund's investments. For example, it will describe the fund's investment goals and objectives, and also the fund's investment strategy to achieve these investment goals and objectives. And it will also have a description of the fund's asset allocation. Now, it's also what we call a living document, so it will be updated and changed whenever there are changes to the fund's investment strategy.
Yes.
And importantly, it must be reviewed regularly by the Board of Trustees, but at least review it on an annual basis.
Okay. And why is it necessary for a retirement fund to have this IPS?
Well, first of all, it's a regulatory requirement. Now, in terms of the Financial Institutions and Markets Act, which came into effect on the 1st of May this year, every retirement fund must have an investment policy statement, unless the fund is exempted from this requirement. Now, and secondly, it's also important and necessary from a governance perspective, and it removes sort of the emotion from investment decision making.
Okay.
And it also ensures accountability. Now, thirdly, it's also necessary because it ensures that the trustees apply long-term investment principles consistently. Now, some examples of long-term investment principles are diversification and compounding. Now, diversification is where you spread your investments across different asset classes like equities, bonds, and cash to lower or reduce the investment risk. And compounding is the principle where you leave the money invested so that it can grow and over time to make even more money.
Okay.
And finally, it's also important. The investment policy statement is also important and necessary because it ensures continuity among generations of trustees, as it serves as this kind of permanent institutional memory that survives any changes to boards of trustees.
100%. And as you just alluded to, that about NAMFISA has issued standards for retirement funds, and there's a specific standard relating to an investment policy statement. Can you share with the listeners what are some of the requirements of this standard?
Yes. So the important requirement of the standard is that the investment policy statement must be made available to active members and deferred members on request. And it could be, either you could make it available electronically, the fund could make it available electronically or physically. And then one of the other requirements is where the fund offers member investment choice. So member investment choice is where where the fund has more than one investment portfolio that members could choose to invest in. Then the fund must provide clear communication about the members' investment options to the members, at least on an annual basis. And it's also a requirement that the fund provides sort of investment workshops to these members at least once every 3 years.
Once every 3 years, you said?
Yeah, okay. That's correct. Once every 3 years. They could obviously provide it more frequently, but the requirement is at least to provide that workshop once every 3 years. It's the minimum requirement.
So kind of upon request or once every 3 years?
Yeah, so the investment policy should be made available upon request, but then where members have member investment choice, then they must have these workshops once every 3 years, at least once every 3 years.
Understood. And so in terms of this NAMFISA standard, what are some of the matters that must be included in an investment policy statement?
Yeah, so really interestingly, the heading of the standard is matters to be included in an investment policy. And examples of what must be included in this investment policy is the description of the fund's return objective. And, you could either describe it in real terms. For example, you could describe the return objective as Namibia consumer price inflation plus 5% per annum over, say, rolling 5 years. Or you could describe the return objective in nominal terms like, the objective is 10% per annum over rolling 5 years. So that's one example of what's required. Secondly, there also has to be a description of the fund's risk tolerance for aggregate investment risk. And, you could, the category could either be low risk tolerance or medium risk tolerance for aggregate risk or high. And then thirdly, there should be a description of the asset classes in which the fund may invest, and also then the level of diversification. And that level could be low, medium, or high. Now, you could understand if you have a lot of spread of asset classes, then the diversification would probably be high. And if you only invest in one asset class, then your level of diversification would be low.
Yes. And this investment policy statement, why is this IPS important to members, and what insights could it provide to members of a retirement fund?
It is, as I pointed out, the investment policy document is a single reference point for the fund's investments and investment related matters. And it could actually provide a lot of insights to members. For example, the member could get detail about, the investment manager composition of the investment portfolio. In other words, which investment managers are actually managing your investment portfolio, and then also more details about these investment managers, like is it a single manager or a multi-manager, and if it's a single manager, what's the investment style that this manager is following, like is it a value manager or a growth manager or a momentum manager. And then the investment policy statement will also have details about the strategies followed, by the investment managers, like balanced. Is it a balanced strategy or a specialist strategy, as well as details like, are there passive strategies included within my investment portfolio, and it will also have details about the how will your investment portfolio be monitored, including details of the benchmark or benchmarks that will be used by the Board of Trustees to monitor the portfolio. Yeah, so there would be a lot of detail and insights in the investment policy statement for members of retirement funds.
100%. And
so I would really like to encourage members to obtain a copy of the investment policy statement and read through it, and members could only gain from this.
100%. And my last question for you, just to follow up on what you just said, obviously without giving away too many secrets, but yes. What does a good investment policy statement look like? If I'm a member, what are some things that I would like to see in an investment policy statement?
Yeah, so Edie, so it will it will have a description of long-term investment principles that the trustees will follow. It will also have a description, as I explained previously, of the investment objectives, of the investment portfolio return objectives, the risk of the portfolio, in terms of standard deviation, what, the risk tolerance of the portfolio. There will also be a description how the trustees will select, for example, investment managers, and how they will, how they will come to a decision to fire an investment manager. So there will be specifically instances that they will provide for in the investment policy document when they will actually fire an investment manager. So it won't be just an emotional decision based on underperformance. There must be specific, sort of a description when the trustees will actually fire an investment manager. And I've also mentioned to you the things like asset allocation, and if the fund offers member investment choice, like the list of the investment portfolios options that are being offered by the retirement fund.
100%. Mr. Miller, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we wish you a pleasant day ahead.
Yeah, that is Frederick Miller from RXFOB Investment Management, and he's the managing director at RXFOB. And also to look at what is a policy statement, what does a good investment policy statement looks like, and when should the investment manager should be sent home. And also to say investment is not an emotional decision. That's why there are procedures that you need to follow, especially when you are in the environment of investment. And from me, David Shombe, that will bring us to the end of On The Radar News Bulletin. I'll leave you in the good hands of Pene Ambeko Jonas and Andreas Erastus from Andangwa with Etemoleto. Bye-bye and see you around.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up